Hello, my name is Santa Rose. I also go by my author name S. Bell Rose, and this is my channel, Blooming Life Guide. Today, we're going to talk about a very common theme that I find not only with people I do psychic readings with, but also as a psychotherapist. And that is the I don't fit in and I'm lonely. Now, there's a lot of different ways that this shows up. One of them is that somebody doesn't fit in because their family and friends are all extroverted and they're introverted. That's very, very common. I've even had people suggest that they must be mentally ill to be an introvert, although they don't use the word introvert. They say, there's something wrong. Maybe I have a depression or something, but I just don't like to be around a lot of people. I get really tired. I need extra sleep if I've done a lot of things that with my friends and family, and they don't need extra sleep. They find that fun. And even something that's true for me, you get invited to something and you need to do it because you want to socialize with your friends and family. And then something happens and it's canceled and you're deeply relieved. And it's not that you don't care for the people, it's just the particular social event it seemed overwhelming to go and do. It's not a sign of mental illness to be an introvert, but we live in a very extroverted world in which extroversion is what is considered normal, and introversion is, in my opinion, is perfectly normal, but it's sometimes looked down on or judged as not as good as. This is also true in workplaces. I hate the open concept stuff that they do in workplaces where people are never alone. They're always crowded around people and they're always put into these large groups and they're always put into big projects with large number of people on the team. And if you're an extroverted person, you may thrive in that environment and you're so happy to have that kind of a work circumstance, but it doesn't work for someone who's introverted. And it doesn't mean that the introverted person is not a good employee. It doesn't mean that they're not as capable or as productive. And it certainly doesn't mean that they're mentally ill. So to begin with, if you're somebody who's an introvert, celebrate that wonderful quality that you have. I'm an introvert. I celebrate my introversion. Now, I happen to be what's often referred to as a social introvert. I do like to socialize. I really love my time with people. I don't mind occasionally doing big social things in a social environment. I don't find it exhausting to go have dinner at a restaurant. But there are other introverts that even those things can be kind of draining to you. And it doesn't mean that I'm more stable and you're not. It means that your introversion is different, that you have even more need for solitude than I do. Now, I get a lot of solitude in my life, and I feel that that fills me. And I enjoy my walks by myself. I enjoy my meditation time. I love to read. Reading is essential to my life. I cannot go without reading every single day. And I find all of those alone time things fulfilling. And when I was growing up, I spent enormous amounts of time alone, and it was not a horrible thing. It was wonderful to be by myself. I enjoyed my alone time. So, to begin with, if you feel that you're not fitting in because you're around a lot of extroverts and you're introverted, it's not you not fitting in because there's something wrong with you. It's that you're trying to fit in with people who are not enough like you. And maybe you could celebrate yourself more. And you may also make friends with other introverts that can appreciate and validate your experience. So, an example of where to meet introverts would be um, book clubs, libraries, a lot of people who gravitate to, like gaming community. A lot of them are introverts, not all of them, but you may find that if there's a game night and you participate in that, there may be other introverts that are also there. I love to play cards or something like that, but there's also a lot of video game communities or get-togethers that are related to that. So these are some things to consider. If you need more information, just research introversion. There's books on introversion from your library. Get some information, find out more about it. Um, The Quiet Power of Introversion, I think, is one of the books that was really influential to me. I may have got the name wrong. And I'm not going to put the link to it in the description box. You're capable of doing a search for a book on introversion and see which one you're led to read. Because when you do a search and you find a book that you say, oh, that feels like the right book for me, that's your spirit guide saying this particular book is good for you. So you don't always need a reference from me about which book to read, because there isn't one particular introversion book that I suggest. Do suggest if you think you're an introvert that you research it and that you celebrate who you are and accept you for who you are and not try to change you into an extrovert when that doesn't fit you. Now, that subject aside, recently I was talking with somebody who said how lonely they were, how they felt like they never fit in, how they feel that the people who come into their life, none of them are good for them, and they end up losing friends right and left. In fact, that they had lost a lot of friends when they had gone through a really dark time in their life. And I am telling you that solitude is a part of awakening for a lot of people, especially those of us who lean into the more introversion or introverted side. And even extroverts can be very highly sensitive people. And if you're a highly sensitive person, even if you are also an extrovert, you may need a little bit more alone time, or you may need to curate and be very careful on the selection of which social groups that you're involved with when you have gone through a really dark time. Another phrase for really dark time could be a dark night of the soul. Now, what is the dark night of the soul? I'm going to do a video about that in the future, but basically, it's when you're processing shifts of energy because you are shifting and changing and evolving. It's usually when you are moving out of one phase of your spirituality into another phase. So, dark nights of the soul can happen more than once a lifetime. And there may be times when the processing of that shift last weeks and months, and times in which you're processing energy and it's just a matter of a day or so that you need to process. I went through almost 2 years of a dark night of the soul, but mine was complicated by some medical issues. It wasn't just the shifting of my energy, there was also medical problems that I was going through. So when you go through one of those long phases, it is really common for you to no longer have the friends that you had before, to no longer connect to your family in the way that you had before. It is not uncommon for you to end up feeling that you're completely alone and to feel really lonely during that time. The answer isn't to get mad at yourself. The answer is to accept that that's part of the process of growing. You can outgrow your closest friends. You can outgrow the connection you have to certain family members because maybe they're not growing in the same way that you are. You can also lose friends because they grew in a way that you didn't. That has happened too, where they made a shift in their lifestyle or their changes because of their own personal growth, and you're no longer a match for them because and they have actually grown. You need to work on your growing, but you may find that you separate and move different directions. It's one of the reasons why I speak against the idea of the one romantic person that you're mated to be with, and it's the you're predestined to be with this one person, and I thought this was the one. You know, people will say that to me. I'm so brokenhearted because I thought this partner was the one. I don't believe in the one. Even I write romance novels. In my romance novels, there's always happily ever after, and everybody's so happy. And I love reading romance novels, but these are fictional stories. And they're beautiful to read and to think, oh, wouldn't that be nice? But it's fiction, it's not reality. In reality, people grow and change. And maybe you stay bonded with this person your whole life, even though you shift and change, your relationship sh- becomes different. And your relationship goes through different phases in the relationship as you each separately grow and change. So I'm not saying that you can't have a partner for life. Many people have lifetime partnerships, but I think that's a minority. And I think that most people don't. Most people have people for a season of their life. So it may be that you're with somebody for 10 years or for 12 years, or maybe you're with them for 1 year or even less. You're with that person for a certain length of time, and then you're no longer a match because of the shifting and changes that you have made. And you can love that person and still move to a different phase of your life. And if you're not a match where you can continue to be in the same relationship, you can stay friends or you can stay associates. I am very happily divorced, and I still to this day love my former husband. I am so happy for him and his life, and I will always love him, but we are not a match for one another. And I'm not willing to reunite with them. And I can be very open to other relationships because he's not the one. He is one of the ones that I've had relationships with. I um, also know people who have multiple different partners. They're polyamorous, or maybe they are not polyamorous in that they love, and then which there's a group that love one another, but maybe they're in an open relationship where they have different relationships with different people, and it's all very above board and there's no cheating going on. It's all accepted that this is the lifestyle. There's nothing wrong with that lifestyle, in my opinion. What I love about it is the honesty. I don't like it when people are dishonest with each other because that's a low vibration, and that's an intention that isn't good. And acting with a good intention, I think, is really important for your spirituality and for your spiritual health and for your mental health. So when you feel that you don't fit in with people and you've lost people, it could be that you've grown and they're no longer a match to you. It could be also something I just mentioned, which is that your lifestyle doesn't fit the lifestyle of the people around you. So when I have gone through phases of my life where I had no partner at all, no relationship, no romantic relationship, I had friendships, but no romantic relationships, there were times when it felt like I didn't fit in with my female friends because they were married and they had kids and they had relationships and I did not. And it felt like I didn't fit in. And I love my life and my lifestyle. I love what I do. I love the work that I do. I love the growth that I've had. I love myself. And I'm okay if I don't look exactly like everyone else in my social sphere. So the fact that I don't have a partner, but they have one, the fact that I don't have living children and they have children. I've had miscarriages. I don't have any living children. It wasn't meant to be. My body does not well, I'm too old now to have children, but when I was of childbearing age, I had three miscarriages because I couldn't carry to term. Even with bed rest, I couldn't keep the baby. That is how my body was. It doesn't make me deficient, but it does make it hard to fit in with people when you're getting older in life and they're talking about their grandchildren and you never had children. And frankly, Our society tends to judge, specifically judge women who didn't have children in their life. Like, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you have children? And I'm smiling about that because I've actually had people that I've worked with as a mental health therapist, and part of their angst and pain that they had was that they didn't want to have children and they felt that they were going to be judged. Or people who never wanted to get legally married, even they just wanted to have close boyfriend, girlfriends, whoever, but they didn't want a legal marriage. And they were like, what's wrong with me? Well, you're not meeting societal expectations, maybe, but in my opinion, those expectations are stupid. Not everyone's the same. There's nothing wrong with choosing not to have children. There's nothing wrong with choosing not to get married. There's nothing wrong with choosing a lifestyle such as an open relationship. If the people you're having that open relationship with are all also in agreement with that, and your intentions are to be authentic and honest, there's nothing wrong with choosing a lifestyle that is different than society. But when you do, it could feel a little lonesome because you're in the minority. So, one of the beautiful things about living in the era of the internet is that you can find kindred souls that are similar to you, that you can connect to, and that you can validate your experience and see that you're not abnormal. You're just not the cookie cutter version of how everyone is supposed to be. Well, you know what? Even people who are supposed to be or living their life, with that, I'm married and I have children, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, are still unhappy. In fact, there are some of them are unhappy because they didn't actually want that. They just did it because it was expected of them. I have come across that many, many times where people make choices because of the expectation that they have to do a certain thing. They have to be married, they have to have children. I was working with somebody in the past who was really distressed and upset because specifically she couldn't find a spouse. She was looking for, not interestingly enough, she wasn't so much looking for friends and a romantic partner and to have a healthy relationship. She wanted to be married because that was what the expectation was, and it wasn't happening. And her answer that she came up with, which is not accurate and true, was that there was something wrong with her. No, you can be different than societal norms. And it's not that there's something wrong with you. It could be that you are gloriously, authentically, uniquely yourself. And that's a positive, wonderful thing. But yeah, there might be people who are not willing to be open-minded and are judgy. But there are people who judge people by the color of their skin, like they have any, like, how dare you choose to be born with a different color of your skin, or people who've made fun of my name. I used to have a terrible time with people making fun of my name. And I would say to them sometimes, well, yeah, I understand. You would make fun of something that I had no control over. I should have, when I was born, made sure that I was named something simple like Cindy or something, rather than have such an unusual name, because Senta is my legal first name. That's what I was born with. And people would just look at me kind of funny, but it's the same thing with judging somebody by the color of their skin or the texture of their hair or some other thing, and assuming that because they don't fit some cookie cutter idea that there's something wrong with them. No. And if you are different, there's nothing wrong with you. I'm a large woman. I love me. I totally love me. But one of the reasons why I have the round face and so forth is because I have very severe health problems and I have to take a lot of prednisone, which is a, a medication that reduces the inflammation in my lungs, helps me to breathe better. and it keeps me from getting pneumonia. And honestly, it's life-saving. If I didn't take that medication when I was sick, I could die. It's really that necessary. But the side effects is that it gives you this round face and it makes it harder to lose weight. And my other health issues also, because I also have severe arthritis, it makes it harder to exercise and so forth. And there's genetics involved. My whole family that I was raised with were obese. Some of the people in my family um, are very, very obese, and others have had surgeries, and maybe they are not as overweight. I've even had surgery for weight loss, and it didn't work. So I can't have any more surgery in that area because it would mess up my digestive system to do anything more than has already been done. So there's a judgment, because I don't look like a model. I don't look like I'm um, the ideal of what attractive is. I love me, but feeling like you don't fit in because you don't look a certain way is the cause of a lot of people's mental health issues. I mean, they develop eating disorders, they develop depression, anxiety, and it's all because they're not loving and accepting themselves. And that's the heart of what I want to tell you is that when you love yourself, while you might sometimes feel a little alienated and lonely, you still feel that you're okay. And I want you to still feel that you're okay no matter what. I want you to remember who you really are. And who you really are is somebody who has good intentions for others, because I'm assuming if you're attracted to this channel, you're attracted to positive vibrations, positive energy, and healing from past trauma. Which brings me to another point that I want to make about feeling alienated and alone is the false idea that nobody else would understand what you've been through when you've been through abuse. That's also a false idea. And very, very often, abusive people will tell their victims or the survivors of their abuse, they will tell them, you're no good, you're ugly, you're unintelligent, you're foolish, all kind, I'll call them bad names, and just bring their self-esteem down as low as possible. And that is because they have low self-esteem. They need to drag you down. Maybe they're even jealous of your positive self-esteem at the beginning of the relationship and they need to pull you down. Or maybe they just are looking for somebody willing to tolerate their abusive behavior. And so they look for somebody who sends out like a sense of insecurity to begin with. Whenever you don't manifest the bad behaviors of others, you can, however, make bad choices that contribute to getting into bad situations. And one of them is allowing somebody to be abusive and not ending it like really quick. We're done right off the bat. I don't give somebody a chance to be abusive to me more than once. Once soon as they have got crossed a line with me, I make it abundantly clear I'm not going to allow that and the relationship will end. And part of what I have done in my lifestyle is I've made sure that I've always been independent, that I always had an exit ability. And that's because there's so many abusive people that I've dealt with. But one of the reasons why you might feel lonely is you might feel that only you have experienced abuse, only you have experienced some of the traumas that you've experienced in your life. You feel alienated because you don't fit in because, and I don't agree with this phrase, but I'm going to say it because I used to say this to myself. And I think a lot of other people say it too. You feel that you're broken. You're not broken. You're a survivor. But you have had damage done to you and you do need to heal. It took me a long time to heal. I'm hoping that I can teach people how to heal faster and go to get out of that wounded place in a much earlier in their life than I did. It took me a long time. So feeling alienated and alone was the topic. And I covered a lot of different things. The most important thing for you to recognize, angels are always with you. You are always and completely supported by God, the creator, whatever phrase you use for that. You are not creating the bad things that happen to you. There are people in your life that needed to leave your life, and that you will feel you will miss them, but they weren't right to be in your life. And there are times when solitude is an important part of the healing process and of the evolution process, and having the ability to be independent and move out of relationships that become abusive, I think is really important in our current society. There's so much abuse. It is so rampant. And those of you who feel all alone, that you're not the only ones who've gone through traumas and difficulties, understand, no, the majority of people in America have gone through abuse. The majority of people. It is a very abusive culture in which we even look the other way when abuse occurs way too much and for many, many decades. There is a ton of abuse. And by the way, it happens at all economic levels. It's not just people who grew up poor that have abuse in their home. Some people who grew up poor have loving families that are never abusive, but maybe they had traumas in other areas of their lives. So it's all economic groups. I've met people who were raised in very wealthy families in which the abuse was horrible. And so it's all the economic groups. So recognize that if you've been through abuse, you're in the majority. It's just people have been silent about it. And they're not being so silent. So more and more people are being open about the fact that not only have we been through abuse, but we're not going to tolerate it. And we want these abusive people to be held more accountable. And, you know, hopefully that will become more prevalent. But I think more than anything, we need to be willing to say, I don't need to fit in. I can be somebody who divorces this bad person that's in my life, this partner that's not good, or I can choose to be alone and not date somebody, because being not abused or being in feeling that security of not being harmed is worth it. And I don't have to fit in by being with somebody. And the fear of being lonely is something for you to take a look at and recognize. It's okay to be alone. And you're only lonely if you're not having a good relationship with yourself and you're not reaching out for healthy people in your life. So I kind of went around in circles with this one. Hopefully, I've given you some ideas to think about. Do some energy healing, do some grounding. And if you're feeling a lot of anxiety, please take a look at my root chakra guided visualization. That will help a lot with that feeling of inner security that you need if you're going through a time in which you're by yourself. And you can take a look in the description box for links for where you could schedule appointments with me. I am filming this on October 25th, and I have openings currently in December of 2022 for appointments. I'm booked out that far, but those spots are available on my calendar. So have a blooming day.